It was just one viral TikTok for Death's Obsession that really hit it off straight away. Literally overnight, I went to like check my sales and I'm like, what's happening? And then I went to TikTok. I'm like, oh my God. Like I just posted it before bed. And then I woke up and I'm like,
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Carrington-Russell, an Amazon top 25 best-selling author focused on interviewing authors and professionals within the publishing industry, hoping to find you inspiration, resources, and some tips on how to level up your author career. And I have a very special guest for you today. We are talking to a well-loved author who is known for writing morally grey women, men who should probably be in prison, and unnecessary trauma and bloodshed.
hi, I'm Avina St Graves. I hope you enjoy the episode.
Thank you. I absolutely adore you. So, for those who don't know, Avina and I actually met recently at the Babe signing. We met at the after party, and one can say became best friends ASAP. Thank you,
Mhm.
podcast, for getting us there, but we probably did. I know I didn't. But I am so excited to have you on because I actually have seen you over the last 2 years building your career and quite substantially, actually, as well. So I'm really, not that you need anyone to say, but I'm really proud of you and I'm really excited to hear about your journey.
Thank you.
Yeah, like you smashed it. So take me back to the start of why you actually started writing and how you found publishing for the first time.
So I was one of those kids writing on Wattpad when I was 12. So I would say that's when the journey really started. And then I guess being unmedicated helped me forget that I had that interest for a while. Um, and one night, several years ago, I impulsively decided to write a book. This was like at midnight, and I was like, hey, here we go. Um, and I wrote it and then forgot about it. I wrote like the first like 20,000 words and like completely forgot about its existence. And I was looking through my computer to like delete and like make some space. And I was like, what is that? What is that? Um, so I decided to then publish that under a different pen name that you know of me now. It did not go well. Let's just say that. And one day, a while later, a couple months, I can't remember how long, I was driving and then like another idea came to me and I just wrote it and then I was like, screw it, we'll publish it. I'm gonna get like 5 people reading this book. Nobody knows about it. I've done next to no marketing for it. Nobody, it's like a brand new pen name. And then it made it to like number 6 or 7 on the Kindle store within the first week. And I was like, oh shit, that's more than 5 people. So it was just impulsiveness on my end.
So what book was that and when did that publish?
So Death's Obsession, actually 2 years to date.
Happy
So
to publishing
it's my
anniversary.
publishing anniversary. Damn.
Hey, this is awesome. What?
So life-changing things happened 2 years ago.
That's amazing though. And obviously we've had a recent release as well, which we'll get into
Mhm.
in a bit. But usually I would ask authors, when did you notice the snowball effect in your career? But yours was very much straight off. Besides that
Mhm.
first one that you published, this was kind of straight off the bat. So when you reflect on that first book, what do you think contributed to that, immediate success of that book? Was it on TikTok? Was it on, certain blog pages that you've gone to and referred to, PR companies? What do you think it was all about?
So I did the same marketing strategy for both pen names, but it was just one viral TikTok for Death's Obsession that really hit it off straight away. Literally overnight, I went to like check my sales and I'm like, what's happening? And then I went to TikTok. I'm like, oh my God. Like I just posted it before bed. And then I woke up and I'm like,
Wow.
so maybe it's luck, maybe it's whatever it might be. But after that one TikTok video, basically everything started from there. People then started recommending it to other people. They enjoy it, they share it, things like that. A lot of people made the exact same video because I had a somewhat iconic dedication, and that's what did it. Even nowadays, like a lot of readers know me for that one dedication. So ever since then, it's just been me trying to replicate that strategy, but it's not always possible.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
I do want to discuss the dedications a little bit because I do think that there are marketing tools that we can use, but they only last really like peak at a certain time. So like I can
Mm-hmm.
reflect on this because we my co-author and I had a very viral one as well. It got Colleen Hoover into trouble. Like it was just like a wild experience.
Wow.
Yeah, it was actually, I will tell you, okay, I don't think I've actually spoken about it on here, but we had Lethal Vows released and somebody messaged Colleen Hoover with our dedication in it, which was like a bit of a spicy dedication, but a husband saying, how dare you write this in my wife's book, basically, like, I'm gonna sue you. And so Colleen Hoover did a post and was like, first of all, this is not my book, but two, there are so many other red flag issues here. And so then, of course, people were like, oh my gosh, whose like book is this, blah, blah, blah. And it was ours. And I was like, oh, like, hashtag sorry, not sorry. And so and then we started noticing a lot
Mm.
TikTok. So we started implementing that as a marketing tool on TikTok as well. And it was going viral for that particular book. So, and a lot of authors do that. And so now it kind of has lessened its power almost because as soon as one marketing tool is used and a lot of people utilize it, as they should, because if it's working, then why not? Um,
Mm-hmm.
you just kind of wait until the next thing goes off and things like that. So I am curious though how this made you feel because a lot of people always say that they want the big boom, like they said, like great out, like straight out of the bag.
Mm-hmm.
But it actually can be very crippling at the same time. So when you've got that pressure or expectation of the next book, or when you think, oh, you have the imposter syndrome, I'm a phony, like this is a one-off. How did you go managing that new expectation and actually stepping through to then write the next book and the next book?
I actually found it extremely difficult because after that first book where I was like, five people are going to read this. Nobody, I had very, very minimal followers on TikTok and on Instagram. I had I think maybe like 20 or under ARC readers. Like I really just, nobody was going to read it. And I was convinced that it was just going to be a throwaway. And then I had that overnight viral video and it just kept on going and going and going. And it was like sustaining an income and like really pushing me to be able to say, hey, I can finally, make the shift to do it full time. But with that mindset, it's like, how am I going to write my next book? And I suppose there's always that fear that's like, am I a one hit wonder in a way? So there was so much pressure in this next book. And because I was reasonably inexperienced in the process, because I hadn't done my death obsession properly, I just like, nobody's going to read it. So I didn't do all the proper due diligence for it or the step by step that you should technically do for a book. It just became so extremely stressful to publish Skin of a Sinner, which was my book following Death's Obsession. And I just remember being like in one of the worst mental health spaces in my life because I also had things going on personally and then this on top of that. But Skin of a Sinner was just as successful as Death's Obsession. Not as successful, but still like the same similar level of success. And then the pressure then added for the next book because I'm like, shoot, now I need to somehow live up to these prior two expectations. And I ended up writing one of my favorite books. I loved it so much. I had so much fun writing it. I love the characters. They're my favorite ones. And then it flopped. And after that, it was just like, I hit like a really bad space because I was like, maybe like those two books were it. But I just like told myself, I'm like, if you want this, if you really want to be an author, if you want to leave your soul crushing, crippling day job, you just need to push through. Um, Maybe it's not this book that's going to be the one that does well, but it could be the next one. And if not that one, then maybe it's the next one. You just need to keep writing. And I remember hearing somebody say, sells your backlist like your front list. So I'm like, you just need to keep going. And even though I've hit lulls and another release that didn't do too well, I'm just like, got to keep going. It'll be the next book that's going to be the one. And if it's not that one, just keep going, because even though somebody hates your book, it might be somebody's favorite book, is what I always have to tell myself to do. As annoying as it is, marketing always plays into the sale of a book. And like timing as well. So
What are the things that you focus on in marketing? So, if you could give three pieces of marketing advice to inspiring or authors who are wanting to level up in their career, what would you say that they should focus on, the three things?
it's really hard to say because each person has a different marketing strategy. So there's marketing yourself as an author, and then marketing your product, which is your book. For my book itself, I always focus on hooks because that's what, for me personally, as a reader, that's what gets to me. So if I see a good hook, then I'm like, add to cart. So I always I write it and then I pull the hooks from it. And that's what I use for marketing. So all the reels people see, I mainly focus on reels. That's what I find has gotten readers in for me. But I think it's really important to have some kind of reader engagement. Um, I know a lot of people follow me even though they don't read in general, or they're not even interested in my books, but they enjoy my content. So it's like marketing myself as a person. I'm not like a book influencer, but I'm still an author, and whether they're just watching my stories, whether they enjoy just seeing me be an idiot in my reel, whatever it is, it creates like a connection with them. And like, not just that, it's like engaging with comments, responding to messages, things like that, which I think was a very important part of where I am today, was that initial reader engagement. Or even if they're not a reader, just like general engagement with people and letting people know that you are a person behind this screen, behind this book, um, and like making friends, making connections, and building your own kind of community as well is, I think, very important.
How did you identify for you what you were as a brand, as an author, what you were offering? Because when I see reels of you, it's very much you. Like you're goofy and you're having fun and you
Mm,
not scared to, I guess, show that vulnerability or, playfulness as well for human nature. But even when it comes to your books, like you have branded yourself as writing morally grey and
hmm
heroes and all the good stuff. But I think for some authors, especially when they first get into it, they're like, who am I as an author? How much of myself am I willing to give? Where is my boundary of how much of my personal life I'm willing to offer, or whatever it may be? So what were some of the discussions that you had to have, or how you really knuckled down on who you are and how much of that you wanted to showcase?
At the start, my like marketing technique, especially for my other book, my other pseudonym, it was very it was me, but it also wasn't me. And I found it all so exhausting and more taxing trying to be this person that I'm not really. Um, and it was just more of a conversation of myself with myself. How do I do this so I don't burn out? So like I've written books or with like specific characters where I struggled a lot more with because I was trying to fit my, maybe it's writing style, maybe it's just personality in general, um, into something that I'm not, hence why I struggled so much. And that would lead to the burnout. So it's taking a step back and asking a question of feasibility. Am I willing to put this thing out there for people to know? And it's from a personality perspective and personal life perspective, you got to put your safety first.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not about to go out and say, hey, this is my address. Um, but it's like, hey, here are some memes that I relate to, wink, wink, that does, I suppose, make you see more like a rounded character as opposed to this person in the distance. That's for my own personal branding. The same thing went for my writing, I guess, was just, is it too much for me to push this type of character and write this type of character? If so, it's not worth it. You're going to be sitting on this project for 3 to 6 months or however long it takes you to write a book. Do you want to be struggling that whole time? So it was more of a personal learning curve and being like, it's okay. You don't have to fit in this box if you don't fit into it. You can make your own box. And I suppose that's sort of a shift I had to do in the past like year or two.
What are some of the things regarding marketing as well? What are some of the things that you delegated and that you are so grateful for you personally that you did? You're like everything.
I don't delegate. I'm so bad at delegating.
Okay.
I It's only in the past like month or two that I've started. So I have a PA who does my newsletters because I've been putting it off for so long. So I'm like, let's not. And I think it was end of last year that I'm finally like, okay, let's actually do this. But otherwise, I do everything, almost everything. And I quite literally mean that it wasn't until the past month that I start to actually delegate. And it's just the management of certain emails.
Do you know what? This is fine though, because as you said before, we're on the 2-year publishing end of it
Mm,
as well. So you've had great success, but considering this is a lifetime, long-term career, these are things that'll shift over time as well for you.
hmm.
I kind of love the raw vulnerability of it right now too, because for a lot of people, it's not easy to delegate, and it's quite a
No.
common conversation that happens here. So, but I do think that there gets to a point for everyone that it becomes too much. So you
Yeah.
really focus on what you need to focus on and perhaps what doesn't bring you joy and then bringing that out. So I'm quite curious over the next 6 to 12 months what else you might slowly,
Yeah.
but hard, like it might be hard, but what else you might give out.
Yeah. I think marketing is gonna be all me still, just because that's what I found the most success. I've previously tested out having a like PR company doing TikToks for me, and I've tried two different companies, but it just didn't work for me personally, but it's been super successful for other people. So there's unfortunately no black and white answer. Every person is different, every book is different. And it's hard for me to say, oh, do this, because what works for me might not work for you, and what works for another person might not work for me. So it's being able to understand flexibility and being able to adapt, which was a very big thing, which, that leads to the PA aspect or the delegation aspect. There was just things that weren't getting done, because I do have a hard time giving up control, or I'm quite type A in some things. I think one of the biggest and most important aspects of not just being an author, but any kind of business is being able to adapt and learn.
Yeah.
Because if you're like, I want to do this, but it's not working, but I still want to do this, then you might, depending on what it is, it might not get there. So it's a matter of being like, okay, this isn't working. How about we adapt it slightly? Or what if we change it entirely and see if that works? And don't just, I know it's, for me, I do struggle with, oh, that didn't work that one time, so we're never trying it again. So it's having a level of patience is very much required, especially with marketing.
You sound very much like a hands-on learner as well, like trial error as you go. I'm curious
Mm-hmm.
if you have any resources that you recommend for those who are listening that you found really helped you, whether it was any books or particular groups or particular authors that like mentored you slightly or whatever it may be. What were the things that really helped you learn?
I think at the start, I pretty much just looked at a bunch of different authors across different genres, well, subgenres, and seeing what they did and if that was something that I might be comfortable implementing. I know, not to say my own marketing strategy is perfect. I know there's, things I'm lacking, but seeing somebody else's, maybe their focus is just posting art of their book. That might not be feasible for you because you might not have the budget, but if you do, testing out how that art works for you. Whereas another author might have a focus on reels and then seeing, hey, is this something that I could do and find my own success in? Or maybe it's just like posting quotes of the book in a static post or image. It's, it's, I didn't really look at one place, but more like what my peers are doing. And figuring out what worked for them and what worked for me. Um, it's learning from others is very helpful.
I love that you're open to that too, though, because I think there's definitely so much that we can gain by just watching other people's movements. And this is not in a comparison way, because I definitely think comparison is the thief of joy. But I think you can learn
100%.
so much from each other. And even, having a discussion with them, becoming friends with them, like I feel like that is just such an incredible, not only are you building your tribe,
Mm-hmm.
but also there's so much that we can, and I learn every day, like through this, like I'm learning things from you now just by sitting down and having that conversation.
Absolutely.
So I definitely recommend that. That's a great one.
Yeah. Especially things outside of marketing, like different business practices, whether it's setting up your own bookstore, how you should have your website, like very small things that you don't think about or understand because as authors, there's no one real easy access resource that's like, you need to do all these step by step things. So you're constantly learning, like you said, through communication with others as well.
I want to talk a little bit about writing, the craft itself. So I want to know whether one, like you're a plotter or a pantser, whether you have particular routines, and then I want to deep dive into specifically writing morally grey and wounded characters. But what does your writing process look like right now?
So it's planned chaos. So I know what's happening in the book in the sense that I have a chapter by chapter plot line. They're not very detailed. It's more like, oh, Elizabeth goes to the pharmacy and runs into Jack.
Yeah.
That like that's the extent. I know the general vibes. And then I sit down to write and I'm like, oh, who is Elizabeth? So there is an element where I figure it out as I go. I just know the basic premise that Elizabeth's allergic to bees, and
Um,
she's going to get stung at some point. So, like, once I have all that, however long I take to plan it and figure out, oh, what's the climax, what's the dip, what's the goal, and like the weakness and the obstacles in their place. Once I have that, then I sit down and I write. And that's when I usually figure out any subplots or any more specific details about the characters, including their backstory. And then I just really hope for the best.
Yay, well, it's working for you. You excel in writing morally grey characters and wounded. I'm going to say heroes, but of course, our female main characters also have them.
Hmm.
How do you go with that? Because sometimes, like, they're fun, but when they're super wounded or have massive trauma, it can sometimes affect you as a writer because you kind of have to shift into that headspace a little as well. So, does it affect you personally, or are you like, peace out, bye?
I'm very much peace out.
Oh, okay, good for you.
Yeah, sorry, I can't really help with that one. I mean, there's some instances where I'd like write a scene, I'm like, "Ooh, that's kind of icky." But it's just while I write it, and it's like, so one of my most recent examples, basically he comes in a towel and then she steals that towel and rides it. I personally am revulsed by that. Like, I couldn't do it myself, but that's her thing. So it's like trying to write it and not letting my own personal thoughts on it get in the way. But I am pretty good at removing myself from a situation. So for me, it's more of a personality trait. My old job, I had to do it all the time. So I was, it's not the biggest issue for me because then I just, oh, that's icky. Oh, well, and then just keep writing. So that's just me personally. I'm aware that some people do struggle. Um,
I love this though because I actually don't think we've necessarily discussed this on here, but I can relate to this because there's many, after you write like a certain
mm,
amount of books and you're exploring different people's relationships as to what they do and don't like sexually as well. We both write
hmm
um, you know, steamy scenes in our books. So, and I think that's interesting is like we as authors really embrace that everyone has different things. And so I actually find it almost surprising as a writer when you're exploring going, oh, you guys are into this, like this,
yeah.
like you kind of discover it. And as you said, I've had scenes where I'm like, that's not for me. That's not it, but that's what makes it magical as well because it's definitely so we always say don't yuck somebody's yum situation.
No.
So I actually really love like romance authors in general because I think we are very open-minded as well to what experiences and I think that's why I really
Mm,
love to explore it as well because that might not necessarily be their thing, but they're like, but that's interesting.
yeah. And sometimes I know as a reader, I'm like, oh, I know I'm not into that, but I want to read it to find out and just be sure. Or I'm just plainly curious and I want to know how it plays
Yeah.
out. Um, so it is also a marketing thing.
Yeah.
Most things are does turn to marketing as well. But if you're just looking at straight writing, it's also ensuring that you're not writing something that you know you're incredibly uncomfortable with.
Yeah.
This isn't to say, even if you don't like it, you should write it. It's putting your mental health first. If you know you can't write a certain scene because it's triggering for you or it just makes you far too uncomfortable, it's okay not to do it. And I think that there's that really important distinction to make because I've spoken to people that are like, oh, this book, like I wrote, was actually really triggering for me, and made me really upset. It's okay not to write it. I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but there is no yes or no sort of situation there.
Yeah. What do you do when you're discovering? Because it kind of sounds like you do a bit of a skeleton draft, so you kind of know where A to B to C is going,
Hmm.
and you let your characters naturally explore each chapter. When do you really start developing an understanding of their wounds? Because often their wounds is what really drives the plot and the relationship and how they're reacting to each other and outsource. or sorry, outside impact. So
Hmm.
know that at the start, or do you figure that out as you go?
For me, I usually, in my past books, all of their trauma is either on scene to begin with. So for example, the saltwater curse, that my book that just came out, her main trauma is her abusive husband. It comes from her abusive husband. So in the prologue, she kills him. But before she kills him, you understand the mindset and how she got to that place. So for me, it was easy enough to then be like, okay, so I know I've done my research on PTSD. I know, and I have spoken to, and we're familiar with this specific type of genre. Um, I know the Psychology 101 and being able to then explore and build the character from there. Same thing with any MMCs. I'm familiar with their background already and how that has shaped them as a person and how they react to certain situations. You know, for example, somebody with PTSD, like I'll use this character as an example. She has really quite great fears of men because of her experience from her ex-husband. So you see her interact differently with a woman versus a man, and like how skittish she gets with a man and like how freaked out she gets, but then having a completely different reaction to a woman. So it's sort of having the basics there, then building on it as you go and realizing, hey, is this a situation where a trauma response is appropriate or is this outside of it? Um, it's trying to understand like real life people and real life issues and trying to put yourself into their shoes, essentially.
I do love that though, and I think it's very important to do research as well when you are
Mm-hmm.
exploring these types of mental states and places and conditions. And I know that a lot of people also use sensitivity readers, which I
Mm-hmm.
highly recommend because, as writers, like we're exploring these like interesting stories, but also when you hand it over to a reader, there's a responsibility that we have as well to make sure that that book is still a safe space to a degree
Mm-hmm.
to explore those, especially if somebody may be triggered from it. So you kind of want it to be as accurate as possible. Of course, your character is going to be who they are, but I do think there is
Mm-hmm.
some us with responsibility in that regard. So I absolutely love that you do that too.
I don't know about you, but I always have trigger warnings at the start as well, just to ensure that people go in, even if it's a spoiler. Some people don't read it already because they don't want to spoil it, but I think we do have a responsibility, whether we end up putting it on a website first or we do put it at the start of the book, giving people a heads up. Because I know I personally have hard lines that if I see that trigger, I'm not going to read it. And it's other people have the same thing. So it's just having that consideration for others and being mindful that just because you don't have that trigger doesn't mean somebody else doesn't. Yeah.
What would you say so far in your writing career, your greatest challenge and your greatest achievement has been so far?
I personally hate marketing. um,
You're so good at it.
I, I hate marketing, but unfortunately, I think that is one of my successes.
Yeah, you're good at it.
My greatest challenge and my greatest achievement is marketing.
I
uh,
No, because it's such a tricky beast for a lot of people. So it's great that you have that innately, even though it also is your greatest challenge.
if we go outside of marketing and pretend that we only need to write our books, I think writing is a skill. It's not not everyone can pick up a pen and start it. Like some people are naturals, but there are others that do need to work on it. Like I believe I am very much strongly need to work on my writing. For me, the one I still struggle with, and I'm putting in so much effort to try and improve it, is showing instead of telling.
Yep.
That is hard.
I love how open you are about that because it is a common one as well, and it is one that you learn over time. And honestly, like I think we are discussing before, I've been doing this for over a decade now,
Mm,
30 plus books, and I still have my editor being like, you're telling, not showing, or you have those moments where you're doing a dump of, this is a backstory instead of threading it through, and it can be very difficult to
mm.
consciously right through that. So I honestly think that's a common challenge for a lot of writers, but being aware of it is the most important thing.
Very important. And I think one to begin with, like when with my debut, one of the hardest things I struggled with was taking criticism.
Yeah.
Well, taking criticism and knowing that it's for my benefit. So it sucks, but at the same time, that's what helps you become a better author. Because if, that one person didn't say, hey, this paragraph was really bad because you did XYZ, and this is how to improve it and make it actually flow better, that is just how you learn. And I think there is a point where, that's okay, protect your peace, but at the same time, I do strongly believe in like I'm constantly trying to improve my own craft. So, having my beta readers be pretty highly critical of my work, I think that is like phenomenal. And having that team there who isn't afraid of calling you out on your shit and being like, no, this is not perfect. This does need improving. And being able to be like, okay, this is my baby, but we're going to put this aside because we want her to be as good as it could be. And I think growing that thicker skin and not crying about it, because I did, I still do sometimes, is another big challenge that I'm still in the process of
I think
refining.
I think that you off like through this. I remember one of the best pieces of advice, probably within the last 2 years, I think it was, is honestly giving ourselves permission for certain things. And I think that's when, if we explore, like, I recommend a lot Becca's science course on here so you can figure out what your strengths and weaknesses are. That gives you permission to not be like particular other authors. This is my strength, this is how I work. But one of the biggest ones that I took from a very good author friend of mine was basically revisiting an old series because I was like, why hasn't this done well? It didn't do as well as I want,
Mm,
and they connected me with their editor, and she said, you did your best with the resources that you had at the time, but this book still needs serious editing. It's not where it could be. And at that point, I did have editors, I did have things, but my budget was very different to what it was now. And she said, I've connected you with my editor. She's phenomenal. She's a little bit more, but I think perhaps you should rewrite and go through.
mm,
And the piece besides that is the piece of advice that she then said that really resonated with me was, you only know what you know at the time.
yeah.
You can now do this in a better way. And she said, it's not your fault that you did not have this then, but you have it now. And that was such a relief for me because I think we often think, oh my gosh, it must be a terrible story. It's so bad. It's this or that. Sometimes it's just what's within your budget or resource at that time. So
Hmm.
it's all building blocks. So I think be graceful. And once she said that, I just felt such a relief because I didn't take it so personally. But I also think I had to be in the right headspace at the right time to actually hear
Hmm.
out the advice that she was giving. Because had it been years before that, I don't know if I would have been so open to that criticism as well. So just know that if you have really good friends, or as you said, beta readers, that it is not from a place of malice, it is from a place where they really want you to thrive and do your best. But that just really reminded me. So whoever needed to hear that, I hope it really resonates with them.
Mm.
With that said, what has then been your greatest achievement so far? What is the thing that you have been proudest of in your career so far?
I'm very proud of the community I've built in terms of like having these amazingly supportive readers, and I'm watching them connect sometimes, and I like sometimes see on my little posts like, hey, let's be friends, or oh my god, you like this, let's message and talk about it. And it just fills me with so much joy that like as a community we can connect, even if though we're on a different continent, being able to bond over small things, or even readers reaching out to me, like having that level of, I suppose, approachability in place where readers don't hesitate to message me and be like, chapter 21, what the fuck did you just do? You know? Like, or even just like random messages and being like, oh, I saw this at the store and thought of you. And it's like, it's such an amazing feeling that, I've gotten to a place where I feel I am approachable. Um, and then seeing that people are also utilizing my space to meet other people
Yeah.
virtually. And I think I'm very proud of that. And I love seeing it. It makes my day every time I see it. And I know many other authors have the same situation, whether it's in their reader group, whether it's in, maybe it's just a street team or a post you've made, whatever it is. It's amazing to see.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I'm like, yes, because it is so much fun. It's great that we have this. So I'm glad that you have found that through this journey. But I would love to know what a final note or message or piece of advice you would offer for listeners who are watching.
I struggle with imposter syndrome daily. And especially when I'm writing a new book or editing a new book, one thing I tell myself all the time, I'm talking weekly, I am saying it to myself. Your book is not meant to be for everyone, and you are going to write somebody's favorite book. So I have to tell myself that. I'm like, that's okay if Susan hates my book, Shannon loves it. you know, it it's just the little things for me that work personally. And just keep writing is are the two pieces of advice I'd give.
They're good pieces of advice because we all, well, majority of us, should I say, really struggle with that.
Mm.
I find specifically female authors really struggle with that as well. The male authors that I've interviewed, they are like genuinely testosterone. I think it's the testosterone because they're like, I wrote it and I knew it was going to be awesome, and then it made it to the top 100 straight away. And I'm like, blazing, cool, bro. Women, we're a little bit more hesitant on it, and we do, I think, struggle a little bit more with the imposter syndrome. So I'm glad that you brought it up. What do we need to be on the lookout for? What is coming out? And most importantly, where do we find you?
So Instagram or TikTok. Um, I have an announcement. A traditionally published book that's coming out with a gallery. It's a professor and student romance that's coming out next year, and I've got a co-write going on and something potentially sporty coming out
Ooh,
this year, next year.
watch this space. You were busy.
Watch this face.
I'm so excited. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come on today. And yeah, watch this space. Maybe we'll get you back on in a couple of years and see
Yeah.
where.
See if I'm just as struggling just as much with marketing.
Well, you know what? You're in my from an outside perspective, you are smashing it right now. So
I'm crying inside.
I don't care about that. No, I'm kidding. I'm
No.
kidding. I'm kidding. We do care about that. But I'm so glad that you have found, I hope internally, success for you in this industry. But it's really exciting to follow your journey, and I'm just so excited for what else is to come for you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited too.
Yay. Well, until the next episode, guys, we'll see you then. Bye.
Bye.